with week 5 of The Artist's Way. So this week is called Recovering a Sense of Possibility. So thinking about all the possibilities that might exist in our lives. The first part of it talks about limits, how we unconsciously put these limits on ourselves about how much good can come to us. It's interesting because I've come across this theme in podcasts and things that I've been listening to where people are talking about how a lot of us subconsciously have this sort of limit in our minds of like how much good we'll receive. And you hear people say stuff like, oh, things have been going so well, I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop. So people, it's like we put a limit on ourselves, and it's like the metaphor of, you know, the universe is an ocean, and some of us go to the ocean with a bucket, and some of us go with a little thimble because we have this limitation in our mind of how much good we can receive or what's possible for us. So she talks about opening up our sense of possibility, to know that there's more things out there and that there's possibilities for us, and to reach for them and to not just automatically cross them out and think that they're not open and available to you. The next part is called Finding the River, and it's about getting into the flow with things. So we may not feel like we're changing, but it may be obvious to people around us that we are, because we're in the flow. It's like when you're in a boat in the river. It doesn't always feel, or you know, you're on the highway and you're driving. You don't realize sometimes how fast you're actually moving. And so when we're going through a process of change, sometimes we don't think we're changing, but we actually are. So it's about trusting that process and trusting that we're changing and we're growing like we need to. It also says too that it talks about going with the flow and going where our intuition leads us. And sometimes intuition leads us in a non-linear fashion. So it may say to us, like, we may have an interest in gardening and we go, well, this doesn't really, I don't know, this is going to help my career or whatever it is. But then that interest, you know, leads to us being inspired to do something else. Like, you never know. It's never a linear path. So it's kind of finding that flow for yourself. And then it talks about the virtue trap, which is, and a lot of artists I think fall into this, we end up putting our art and our creativity as the last thing on the list when it needs to be one of the first things on the list. So instead of staying home and painting, we say yes to helping a friend move. Or instead of signing up for, you know, a pottery class or something, we go, oh, well, I should really take my kid to baseball. So we put everybody else's needs first. And when that happens, we get angry and frustrated. And then if we don't fulfill those needs, we get depressed. And how you not helping yourself and your creativity isn't helping anyone else. You're giving from an empty well if you never make time for yourself or your creativity. And I certainly have fallen into this trap a lot in my life, where it's like everybody else's needs sort of come first before my needs. And I think especially as women, we're often trained that you're supposed to take care of everyone else. Like, even if you consciously resist that message is sent to us all the time, that we're last. And I think we need to kind of take that back and say, no, we need to take care of our creativity first. So it talks about that, about the, you know, and then it's like, well, we feel virtuous, but we also feel frustrated. And then there's lots of, she gives you all these writing exercises to kind of get past some of the conscious blocks. So, you know, things like, what are 5 things that you're not allowed to do but you would love to do? Lists like that. Or what's a forbidden joy? Or a wish list. Make a wish list of like 20 things, big and small, that you wish for. And then some of the exercise is she gets you to write 5 grievances to God about God, universe, goddess, whatever you want to call it. The reason I can't believe in a supportive God is, and to list like 5 grievances you have about why. And then she gets you to list 5 desires. If you had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, what would you do? If you were 20 and had money, if you were 65 and have money. Then she gets you to talk about ways that you're mean to yourself. And I think one of the ways I'm mean to myself is by putting my creativity last and doing other things first. That's definitely a way I'm mean to myself. And I think that, you know, it sort of brings it to your awareness, like, what am I doing that's actually not really good for me? What's your favorite creative block? TV is one of my favorite blocks. It's easy to just get absorbed in TV and not actually do anything creative. And what's your payoff for staying blocked? Because you get to complain instead of actually doing things, right? And then who do you blame most of all for being blocked? Things like that. So it's pretty intense. It gets you to kind of talk about those things and think about those things, and think about how you can be nicer to yourself. So kind of an intense week. If anybody else is following through this, let me know. Also, let me know what's the one thing you wish you could do but you feel like you're not allowed to do that, and what payoff are you getting from staying blocked? Let me know. Like and subscribe. Talk to you later.